every connection, every relationship we have is like a mirror into our inner world if we'll allow it to be so. And we'll have that like intrapersonal sort of experience where we'll self-examine. And I feel like over the past 2 years, that's been huge for a lot of people to connect with such polar opposite opinions and then allow that to sort of like reflect back to them what their experience has been.
Welcome to the New World Normal podcast. I'm Debbie Harrell, your host, and twice a month I'm speaking with some amazing humans who are disrupting norms and working to create a more inclusive and holistic society. These people are using their sphere of influence, no matter how large or small, to positively impact the world around them. They'll be sharing their expertise as well as sharing stories of resiliency and hope. We'll be talking about the issues that are affecting us all, from the environment, human rights, social issues, criminal justice, and education. We'll talk about our healthcare systems, wellness, and food, from how it's cultivated and distributed to how it's prepared and consumed. Basically, we're going to talk about all the systems in our society that aren't necessarily working for the benefit of the many. We'll strategize and collaborate on how we as a collective can intentionally make better choices every day that will lead to a positive change in the world around us. Because in the end, it's up to us to solve these problems. There is no magic potion or magic wand. It is us and our daily choices and how we spend our time and how we invest our resources. Intrigued? Stick around and have a listen, and by all means, click like or subscribe on your favorite podcast source. Hello, and welcome back to the New World Normal podcast. This is Debbie, and today I am talking to Geri Paige Butner, who is a former successful corporate leader turned current successful entrepreneur and business coach. And you might think, why is the New World Normal talking to a business coach? Well, I heard Geri on Dr. Carly's podcast. You might remember Dr. Carly from a couple episodes ago. Her podcast is the Healing Ground Movement, and it's about all different forms of health and wellness. And they were talking about Geri's story of how and why she made the transition from corporate to independent. And I just found it very inspiring and very hopeful in that now that she's taking her dreams and passions and she's helping other people turn their visions into reality, all while everyone is getting to generate revenue, which is important in this day and age because we need money to live. I really hope you enjoy this conversation. And here we go. Hello, we are here with Geri Paige Butner, who is a former successful corporate leader, and now she is a current successful entrepreneur and business coach. And I was really inspired hearing how Geri made that switch, and I was hoping she would share her story with our listeners. How are you doing, Geri?
I'm doing well. How are you, Debbie?
I'm doing okay.
Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
It's my pleasure.
So, would you like to tell us a little bit about your Eat, Pray, Love journey? Eat, Pray, Love like journey?
Yes, I'll start from the beginning. So it was about 3-4 years ago that I realized that I was not feeling fulfillment at work. And there was a story that I was holding, which was essentially that I would feel this level of fulfillment once I had the title, once I had the income, once I had the team that I needed in order to kind of climb this ladder, per se. And I got there and realized that it wasn't. And so I realized that the level of fulfillment wasn't going to come to me whenever I did reach that level. And I had a team of people that I was managing. I was a head of marketing for a fintech app, an impact investing app. And I was making this powerful impact on others, but I realized, wow, I am still unhappy. So what is out there? What more can I go do? And I realized, okay, I'm going to do a backpacking trip. And I left and I went to Bali and did sort of an Eat, Pray, Love style backpacking trip in Vietnam. And it was there that I sort of unlocked this entire new way of perceiving and being. And I realized this ladder that I had been climbing my entire life, from kindergarten to first grade to high school, to college, to the internship, to the coordinator on up, had really been one that was not of my choosing. And there were all these other options out there and these other ways of being that would just really resonated with me. And I had this sort of like awakening, this breakdown, and I stepped into my own power to step off that ladder, my own power to make decisions. And it was then that I started changing my entire life. I realized that I was going to change my diet. I started eating much more healthily. I started going to acupuncture and then pulling on the thread of holistic wellness. I started reading these more engaging books. I was working on my mindset. And through this process, I realized when I'm working this 9 to 5 job, which was really more like an 8 to 6 or 7 p.m. job, there's very, yeah,
that does happen.
It does indeed. There was less time for me to practice what felt healthy and good and aligned for me to grow. And so when it came, I realized I need to think about another company, right? And so I ended up putting in my notice, and then 2 weeks later, COVID started. And I found myself in this place where I had jumped off the cliff, and I had no idea what business I was going to start or what I was going to do. But I just knew that I had to close that part of the chapter because it was not fulfilling for me, and it was not supportive of the lifestyle outside of work that I wanted. So I leapt off the cliff into the unknown.
I love the intentionality, though. I feel so many people have those feelings of there's got to be something more. Like, what am I doing here? Pushing this paper in this, cog of this giant machine of, like you said, you were impacting people in a positive way, but you still felt like, what is really, there's got to be more. So many people feel that, but so few have the courage to step off that cliff and to make the change. And I love how you said you changed everything, that intentionality of like, is this serving my greater good and my purpose? If not, then let's change it up a little bit. And I have to insert a little bit of my story. It's part of why your story resonated so much with me is I had a realization in very late 2019 that I was not functioning well. Something was going on. And I had had a series of traumatic life events in 2017, and I just kept marching along like the little soldier. And finally in 2019, I'm like, there's something wrong. So I took time off work. I did not get to go on an Eat, Pray, Love backpacking trip. That would have been fabulous. I just took the time off and started to think like, okay, what does this look like? What does it look like not to work and not to be that busy little soldier? And then cue worldwide pandemic. And I'm like, oh, all right, everybody's going to do this for a while. and that's where my entrepreneurial journey started, was that stepping off the treadmill in late 2019 and realizing, yeah, I can't go back to that. It was making me sick.
Yeah.
I really feel that was part of what was contributing to my mental health, and which then ended up morphing into physical health issues.
Yes. And when you finally find that space to like explore and to be and to like sit with things, more of it comes. And so jumping off the cliff is almost like an invitation for more of it to arrive, which can be this really terrifying thing. But when you move through it, there's so much growth and amazingness on the other side.
I agree. And I feel like so many people in our current systems glorify that busy. Well, I'm too busy to make those changes. I can't, I'm just too busy. And so they never get that opportunity to sit still. And I think that's one of the blessings of COVID, is the people that were able to embrace that, oh, like, I'm going to be slowing down. I'm going to be spending this extra family time, or I'm going to be with myself. For me, it was just taking the time to be with myself. I mean, I did have my kids were home and we did have family time, but the bonus for me was sitting and getting to know myself. I feel like that is something that most of us don't take the time to do.
I saw this meme earlier today, and it was like, stop taking your phone with you into the bathroom. Stop whipping it out the moment that someone walks away. It's like, I thought about it. We really, truly, with our devices that are like our fifth appendage, we don't give ourselves space to be alone with ourselves for even the slightest moments. So it's always work. It's always business. It's always something. And so to truly like sit with yourself and have space and have time is like such a wonderful attempt.
Yeah, I've been trying to with the phone. It's almost like when you're retraining your brain with the negative self-talk when you're working on your mental health, like I'm going to redirect that thought, or that feeling is going to pass if I just let it. that the impact of wanting to pick up the phone is like that too. Like, wait, why am I reaching for my phone?
Yeah.
Let's stop and be a little more intentional about this. Like, I don't need to look at my phone right now. Like, I'm sure there's, 20 emails, but they'll be there when I get to my computer. So, and that's what it boils down to for me, is being the more intentional and aligning with who I am. And that's when I feel like you're inviting in the other processes, the other opportunities that then start to appear. And then that path just kind of appears in front of you, like, okay, I think I'll keep walking this way.
Yeah.
Something's happening.
There's so much, once you see that path start to unfold, there's this like degree of surrender in a way, not in like the I give up surrender, but just like an acceptance of like, okay, let's keep going, and I might run into some difficult times, some challenging times, but there's like a moving through them that is intentional and has purpose.
Definitely. And those old worries are still there. Like, you're still going to worry, like, oh, I don't know. Like, is this right? Like, you just try and quiet that part. Like, hey, it's been working so far. Every time I take a step down this path, like something else happens. So why don't I just see what happens? But it's not like those worries just go away instantly, but
nope.
It's a little easier with each step when something new happens or unfolds, or you remind yourself like, hey, remember you were worried and then that happened and that happened. Oh, okay. Maybe there is something to this. I know a lot of people call it manifestation, but I really feel it's alignment.
Yeah, it ends up being this thing where you look at the challenging feelings, the worries, the fear, and whenever you eliminate resistance to them, or like a shame or a guilt around having them, or like, they shouldn't be there, what's been most powerful for me is recognizing them as a part of the whole of me. Like, they are serving a purpose, whether it be as a protector or to try to do good for me, even if it's not manifesting in that way at the time, and to build a better relationship with those things, with the discomfort, with the pain, instead of trying to avoid it. It's been a lot easier to sort of navigate it and move through it instead of bypassing it.
That is such a good point. The worry trying to protect me. That's one thing I've tried to remind myself, and to talk to the worry about it. Like, I know you're trying to protect me, but it's good. There's no lions and tigers or bears. We're going to be fine.
Yeah, it's like, that's like that breathing, like, I am safe, I am home, I'm in my body. There is no lion, there is no tiger, there is no bear. It's like a very different type of fear.
It is, but it's still there. And it can still trip you up and block your way if you let it. And that courage to step into that power is admirable. And to go from, like, I wasn't like super successful corporate. I had no team. I did have an office. So I feel like, I don't know, that's a much bigger leap. Like, I originally, I'm just going to take a couple of weeks off to work on my mental health. And then for me, I know it's hard for me because I found 2020 to be such a blessing. And I know it was so hard for so many people, but for me, it was probably the most pivotal, proved to be the most pivotal year of my life. So I have a hard time embracing the blessings that it is, while I know it was so difficult for so many people.
I feel that. And I've had that same experience where, it was such a traumatic and difficult journey in some ways, and especially for people, who really experienced it firsthand. And for me in my journey, those first couple months after I jumped off the cliff, I had this spaciousness that, in part because of leaving my job, but also in part of the world sort of like quieting down for those couple of months, was really beautiful and expansive. Like, I had space to be, and suddenly I found myself doing something that I've witnessed in a lot of people after they leave the corporate life and they get off of that ladder, is like this journey to heal the sense to be productive all the time. And to know that there's not like, your value is not just totally tied up in the doing, but there's like this essence of being that you get to just exist. And it feels funny, but it's like, oh yes, I should be sort of like being than to go out and work. It's like, that's how global it is. It's very odd.
It is. And I feel like it's part of what you said. It's that ladder that starts in kindergarten, where we're on that path from the beginning. It's competitive, like, we're trying to get better grades than our friends, and it's productive. Like, you need to be producing all the time, learning something new. What are we going to learn this year? And so that those spaces when you're not being productive, it's just counter to our entire culture, what we learn. As good little capitalists, you know, we must be producing and shopping
all the time, right?
all the time. Like, got to buy more shit. Like, I need some more shit. No, that is the last thing I need. And that's one thing that 2020 helped me with too, is because I had taken the time off work, I didn't have as much discretionary funds to spend. And that was okay. Because too, that aligns more with who I am. Like, I worry about the environment. Well, what is me buying more crap that I don't need doing for the environment? The exact opposite of what I really want. So let's just stop. If you're enjoying this conversation, you'll love the discussions happening in the New World Normal community, where we meet regularly to discuss personal growth and social issues, because we know when we do our work, we're better able to navigate this ever-changing world. Be sure to follow the link in the show notes for more information. When you talked about things slowing down, do you live in a city? Or are you more?
I do. I live in Boston. I spent about half a year nomading around in the last half of 2021, and now I've re-nested in Boston.
Oh, okay. Were you in Boston for 2020, the beginning of 2020?
I was.
So that would be, so I live kind of rural, but I can see the city in the distance, and just seeing how clean the air got and everything just felt so much more still. And I know in my community, I spent a lot of time hiking, and usually you'd see one or two people, usually visitors to the area. But during the pandemic, it was really cool to see people from my community out enjoying the trails, you know, with their kids. And it was like, oh, so nice. Cause I know these people are hardworking. I live in a resort town, so everybody's working constantly, you know, hospitality. It's, you know, you've got several jobs generally. And so everyone's always working really hard. So I was like, oh, these people are finally getting to enjoy where they live.
It's so true. In the seaport of Boston, like I lived in a high rise for several years and I didn't even know my neighbor's name, right? Like people are just busy. They're always moving and hustling. And if you want to see your friends, you would have to be like, oh, are you available in 5 weeks, 6 weeks from today? You know, it just took so much planning and there was so much distance. And during COVID, you know, I noticed on my daily walks that people started taking walks, that everyone suddenly had rollerblades and bicycles that didn't have them before. And this entire community was like greeting each other and talking to one another. And I felt this huge shift. And unfortunately, I felt it shift back in the past like 6 months or a year. So it's just like this very interesting thing that it wasn't like the work, right? It wasn't like the corporate job or the corporate pool, the in-office sort of atmosphere. Whenever you're liberated from that, whenever you jump off of that cliff, there's like a very different community that can be waiting for you. And we got a glimpse of it.
Got a glimpse of it. Can we get it back? Like that is, because we've had glimpses of it before. Like you think about when we have experiences that are, you know, national tragedies. Like I hate that it has to be a tragedy, but everybody does pull together and you do have that warm, fuzzy feeling for your neighbors. And I feel like that's so needed so much more right now because it is perceived. And the powers that be, try to make us believe that we're so divided and so different, but we're really not. We really want a lot of the same things. And if we take the time to talk to our neighbors and get to know them, we'll learn a little bit more like, oh, well, yeah, I don't agree with them on that, but these other things we think we feel the same way about. So why don't we build on that common ground of the things that we all can agree on? Which I always go back to the environment. Like if we don't care about the environment, we're not going to have any place to live. Like, can we start there? Like
that feels pretty important, right?
Right. You know, like oxygen to breathe, water to drink, pretty basic. Like we should probably try and protect those.
Meanwhile, they're building a metaverse so we can live digitally.
And building rockets to go to space. I'm like, okay, so here we go. Dystopian future is getting closer and closer. I've always been a big fan of not judging. I don't like the word judging, but considering a new friend for their skills that they would bring to my zombie apocalypse team. And I feel like that just fits for lots of things. It doesn't have to be zombies present, but if the environment fails, like there's going to be an element of survivor. How are we going to survive? Now I'm getting way off on a tangent. My brain either shuts off completely or goes off.
I know.
Someplace else entirely.
I love it.
So yeah, you took the jump, you got off the cliff, you got off the treadmill, and you started your own business during a pandemic, which led to what is known as the Great Resignation. of people wanting to start their own businesses and be more entrepreneurial. And you were there like, hey, I can help you. What amazing, fortuitous timing.
It really did work out well in that way. I had been wanting to start a business for 5 years, and I didn't know what kind of business I was going to start before I quit my job. And in a way, there's that part of me that thinks like, oh, what if I had started earlier? And then another part of me that realizes that the timing was really quite aligned. And I had no idea. This is what I want to put out there is like I jumped off that cliff and I had no idea what kind of business I was going to start. I was like studying photography, and I had this business idea that I was going to be like an artist photographer, capturing people in their like truest essence and doing all these different things. And then suddenly it just hit me like, okay, you're going to be a marketing consultant. And so I launched my business a month later after that. And then I was able to just pivot with the response I got from other people that aligned with the value I was able to provide. And so people were coming to me asking how to start a business and, quitting their jobs and thinking I need to quit my job. It's not fulfilling. And suddenly it was just so real and so true that I realized how I was going to proceed and move forward. And it really helped.
Yeah. I love that the word aligned popped up several times in that segment, because it is, I feel like the more we all try to be more aligned to who we are. And like I said, I feel like we are more alike than different. We're going to find more of that commonality and being able to work together and work on the things that are important to us.
Truly.
I find it so hopeful. In every conversation I have with a new podcast guest, I just get so excited. During 2020, they wanted us to believe it was all doom and gloom. And it was doom and gloom. There was a lot of doom and gloom, and it was scary. And I was scared at times too, like, ooh, this is kind of intense. Like this is happening all over the world. But we are resilient humans, and we're resourceful, and we are innovative if we're allowed to be, like if there's that space and that opportunity. And I feel like we can come up with some very creative solutions to some of these problems that we have if we're just allowed to work together and have conversations, not talk at each other about how our opinion is more valid than their opinion.
It's like that connection and that balance. It's almost like every connection, every relationship we have is like a mirror into our inner world if we'll allow it to be so. And we'll have that like intrapersonal sort of experience where we'll self-examine. And I feel like over the past 2 years, that's been huge for a lot of people to connect with such polar opposite opinions and then allow that to sort of like reflect back to them what their experience has been. But then also it's whenever you have this situation of you're finally working from home and you don't have to go into the office and everyone is like, no, we shouldn't do it because it is free. You know what I mean? It is free if people suddenly realize like, I suddenly have more space to be with my family, to be at home. I suddenly have more space for myself. I don't need to be in the office to be effective at my job. And as they're seeing other people step off into their freedom, they look at that and think, what is this like mirroring back to myself? Is that something that I want? Is my current experience mirroring something to me that's possible for me that I never saw before? A lot of my clients actually will say that whenever they were home, it's almost like they were able to breathe for a while whenever they were working from home. And then they were thrown back into the office or thrown back into the meetings, things picked back up again with the commute and all of that. And it was like a frog that had been just thrown into boiling water very quickly. And they were like, I can't do this. I don't know how I ever did this before. And how they did it was before is the frog was in just a tepid water and it was slowly turned up over time and they didn't know. And then they came out of it and they were thrown back in it. And suddenly their nervous system just realized with such intensity, like, I do not want this. This is not how it needs to be.
That is such a great analogy and it makes so much sense. And I can see that. Yes, I was thankful my job kind of went away with COVID, since I said I worked in hospitality. And I was like, oh, I feel like this is a good thing because I might have gone right back to it. But instead I started this fun project. So you started your marketing consulting and you're seeing people get off the treadmill. Do you think most of the people were getting off the treadmill because of that boiling water incident?
I think it was there. It's almost like there's two groups of people. There was the boiling water incident where people waited and then got thrown back in and realized like, this is too much. I can't do this. I need to back off. And there are also the people that sort of found so much joy and spaciousness and like peace in the working from home and in having like not only time away from work, but sort of time away from like social obligations and other obligations too. Even little things like having to go get your hair done, go get your nails done, go to the dry cleaners, like do all these things to have a release from that. They actually had more time with themselves and they had the room to like reconnect with their dreams and to become aware of what they truly wanted when they've been almost on like this hamster wheel for the past decade or however long that they've been in it, where they haven't even had a chance to see it. So it was kind of like just having the space to see for the first time created a spark for them. Then they started to kind of pursue that.
It's really encouraging and it resonates so much because I feel like that is a lot of what happened to me during that time. And because I was going through it and not sure what I was going to do, I was signing up for every free, workshop and mental health or entrepreneurial, like just signing up for everything. Cause I'm like, I'm at home. I got this time. I'm supposed to be working on myself. I should probably do this. And the people I was encountering were like very much more like heart-centered entrepreneurs. Just like, not like I want to start a business because I want to go make money, but it's like, I want to do something fulfilling that gives me purpose and is of service and gives me, money to support myself, because you can't really separate those two. If you want to be of service, you're going to need to support yourself so you can be of service to more people. So you're going to need to make money. And that coming to terms with like, it does need to be a business, and being of service can be a business. It can feel good and I can make money. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about your program and what you offer your clients.
Yeah. So I help people master that art of doing and being as they're launching a business or as they're growing an existing one. And sort of like some of the core principles that I work around are that you're building a business that's very sustainable for you and it's designed for you, right? So that you'll enjoy it. Because what we don't want to see, and this happens far too often, is people will move from the box of the ladder, wherever they are on the ladder, whether it's a corporate world or startup world or in school or whatever, they'll move from that box. And then they'll hop into just a different box of their own making because of the shoulds and the best practices and all of these things. And suddenly they've just sort of shifted into this other one. And so I help people align on what their gifts are, what they most want to show up for, what's aligned with the time and the energy and the resources that they have, and what's most aligned with the vision they have for their life. Like that's where we start with our brand. And then we build a business plan, a marketing plan, branding strategy, and a launch strategy around all of that. And far too often you'll run into business coaches who are very much in the realm of like the productivity landscape and like, here's the way to do things. And this is more of like a merging of the doing and being, of like the embracing your vision, embracing your gifts, and then following down that path of surrender, that path of climbing a mountain, whatever it is, getting up it and seeing, yes, just this.
But first determining like this is aligned with who I am. So this is the way I want to go. And I love the differentiation between I feel it's an older model. I feel like what you are teaching and what you are talking about is more of the way the future is. Because I think people aren't going to settle for that, fitting myself in a box and checking off all the list. And this is how you do it. Plus everything changes so much that stagnant, this is how you do it, 1, 2, 3, doesn't always work. So why don't we just move to more like, I'm just going to be more authentic to who I am and put that out there. And I'm going to attract the people that vibe with that. And I'm going to repel the people that don't. And that's okay, because there are so many millions, billions, I don't know how many people there are in the world. And I don't need that many.
Yes.
I just need my people. And that was the light switch for me, because I had read a study somewhere along the line that talked about if your parents were entrepreneurial, you're more likely to be entrepreneurial. But if your parents were employees, you're more likely to be employees. So I'm like, oh, my parents were employees. I'm just going to be employee. Like, I'm just going to be the little soldier and go along and check the boxes. And then when I took the time in 2020 and I took all those classes and workshops and entrepreneurial stuff, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I can do this. Like the light switch moment, like I don't need thousands and thousands of people. I just need a few people that really resonate with what I want and or what I'm trying to provide. And then it creates that community.
Absolutely.
And it can be easy. Like I feel more and more people are embracing, like, it doesn't have to be the hustle. You don't have to work. I mean, you definitely have to put in work in the beginning, but it doesn't have to be that grind for the forever,
Mm-hmm.
Let it be easy. I've been saying that a lot lately, mainly when I'm beating myself up because I haven't posted on social media. And you should post on social media every day. And I'm like, I'm just not going to.
And that's the thing is that the capitalist world, that 9 to 5, it's sort of like based around an extroverted, early rising, sort of like constant energetic sort of person, right? And there are so many different variations in people's energy. There's so many different variations in like when people choose to rise and like what their rhythms and cadences are. And so whenever you kind of step out of that box and you get to then decide and shed those shoulds, and you don't have to ask for anyone's permission. And that can be liberating and also terrifying because suddenly you're in a place where you have to give yourself permission and you have to decide when the world is just an ocean full of possibilities instead of like you're on this singular ladder with like, a set like domino effect of possibilities, which is much easier and more contained to climb. And so there's like this big sea and it's full of fear, but also full of possibility, and balancing those two as an entrepreneur is such a major part of it.
Oh yeah, I definitely had squirrel brain at the first. I was definitely the squirrelpreneur. So I love how you pointed out the early rising, because that was a thing for me. Is I have learned I'm more productive and in the flow in the afternoon, evening, and I was always made to feel bad about that. In corporate or in regular business, like be at your desk at 8 a.m. and ready to go. And yeah, like I could be there, but my brain is not going to be functioning very well, like, so now that I get to decide, I usually get to my desk at noon and then I'll work as long as the flow is happening. But to get there at 8 o'clock just isn't silly. And then I've been able to then incorporate rituals for my morning that have become sacred. They're no longer routines, they're rituals, and get to embrace them and sink into them in a way that most people don't get to. So I love that. I now love mornings because of that. Like, I don't love early mornings. I get up when my body wants to get up and I go and I do my things and I sit in my yard with my coffee and get some sunshine and eat some breakfast and walk my dogs. And don't feel rushed and don't feel bad. Like I don't feel bad about the fact that I might not get to my desk till noon because I know that I'm going to be productive once I get there because I've taken care of myself in the morning.
There's so much beauty in those rituals, especially in the morning when you're filling up your cup before you're going out and filling up others, right? Or filling up your businesses. What are your rituals that you most enjoy?
Me, it's weird because I get up and do the dishes. Our dishwasher has been broken for years. So I still hand wash the dishes, but when I make the point to be very present when I'm doing it. So yeah, washing the dishes. And I usually put on my podcast. I listen to one news podcast in the morning and walk my dogs, make my breakfast, sit in the backyard as long as it's not raining, which I live in Southern California. So it's usually not raining. Get some sunshine, a little vitamin D on my skin, and then meander up to my office when I'm feeling so. I have also, I should say, before I get out of bed, backtrack, I usually meditate for about 10 minutes and journal a little bit. I started doing that before I get out of bed so that I have no excuse. I don't get distracted by anything. And because I told you I'm dealing with Hashimoto's issue, I've recently added a red light to my meditation, which red light therapy. I don't know if you've heard anything about it. I don't know how effective it is, but it also says it's good for fine lines and wrinkles.
Oh,
so I'm like, okay, I'll turn on a red light while I'm meditating.
It sounds like you can't go wrong there because
right?
I've heard it helps with a whole variety of things. So I've been wanting to get one, but then I've noticed that even the little block ones are like $500. I'm like, okay, I have to wait for the right one that feels like the right size and order that in.
Yeah, definitely investment. And I'm thinking about starting a page so listen in people, I'm starting a page to support the show of affiliate, like products that I use that I think are good for the new world normal, and then hopefully get a little kickback for myself, give something to the listeners, and help support this show because I'm loving it so much. I don't want to stop.
That's beautiful. I'm so glad that you have this avenue.
I feel like everybody should start a podcast and get to talk to people from around the country, around the world. I actually talked to someone in Australia. That was fun. And just hear what people are up to because it's pretty inspirational. So where do you hang out most? How can people find you, follow you, get in your circle?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Geri Paige, GeriPaige, and then on my website, which is geripaige.com. And I have a few downloads there for people who are thinking of starting a business of their own, including a checklist for starting the business that you can gain access to.
That is awesome. So, New World Normal is all about disrupting societal norms, building better ways. If you, Geri, had a magic wand that you could disrupt a norm, a current societal norm, what would that norm be?
Oh, the first thing, there's so many, but the first thing that pops into my mind is our tendency to project and judge. Judgment is such a poison in our society, and it's so reflective of the things that we judge or have been taught to judge within ourselves and others. And if we can approach things with love and openness versus judgment and criticism, then it opens up a whole new society, a whole new culture, a whole new world of more love, less fear, and just happiness, more happiness for everyone.
Oh, more love, less fear, and happiness. I appreciate that. And I will insert a little of my personal journey of learning that the judging was a way of protecting myself. I became aware that I would pick faults in people as they got closer to me. And that was a way to keep them not so close. And so you're right. That is stopping that, lets them get closer and creates that more love and more happiness and the projecting. Whew. I love the saying that goes around like, okay, the trauma is not your fault, but the work to heal is your responsibility. I'm not sure that that's the right quote, but you get the idea. And that is, I'm going to tie that into one of my products. The New World Normal community is all about our responsibility to our own personal growth at the intersection of the social issues we're having as a society. Because we know when we do our work on ourselves, we're better able to navigate those challenges and work together and not run around projecting all of our stuff all over everybody, because that just leads to more judging.
Yeah, it's like the global change doesn't start from the top so much as it starts on the ground and between each individual, and that ripple effect and it radiating out can be such a powerful force.
I love that. I feel like that's the excellent place to stop. And I appreciate you stopping your day and having a conversation with me. And I appreciate the work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be on. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. Hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. A couple of the takeaways for me was the importance of spending time with yourself, getting to know yourself. What is it you really want? What lights you up? If you're feeling a little stuck or that there's something more, maybe you're not feeling quite fulfilled in your current roles, take some time to sit with yourself and get reflective. And if you're feeling like you're too busy to take that time, you might want to reflect on that. What is that busyness? Is it stuff that's serving your greater good, your higher purpose, your goals and aspirations and what you want out of life? If it's not, then question why you're so busy with it. Maybe set some new boundaries. And be sure to go check out Geri's information and her program and follow her in all the places. And also be sure to check out the New World Normal places, because we are getting ready to launch our new membership in May. So we would love to have you join us. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our show. If you enjoyed what you heard, feel free to subscribe and leave us a review. if you didn't enjoy what you heard, reach out to us and let us know how we can make it better. This show really is about all of us, not just me and my guests, but how we can all work together to make the world just a little bit better. And if you'd like to connect with us in other ways, be sure to follow us on Instagram. We also have a free Facebook group where our fans of the show can connect and discuss their favorite episodes. And in addition to that, we have a membership platform, The Collective by New World Normal, where you will participate in monthly workshops, pop-up challenges, and weekly meetings to support a more intentional lifestyle. We have meaningful conversations about important topics, all in a space that is safe, supportive, and encouraging. So join us. And if you'd like to show us some more support, check out our intentional apparel shop online, New World Intentions. You'll find t-shirts, hats, totes, all with positive messaging to help you move more mindfully through your day and help you to create that new world normal. You can also check out our affiliate page where you'll find our favorite eco-friendly household and personal care products. Thanks again for listening.